Welcome to class, everyone. If you have not been a part of my class, when you go into Canvas each day, you'll see a link to a video like this. These videos are for review or for students who are not in class for a day for whatever reason, that I will quickly spend about 15 minutes going over the lesson. All of the resources for our units will be in Canvas, and we'll talk not today but later on how you will submit your assignments. Today we want to focus on a couple of things. If you are not with us in class, Salt Lake Community College has asked that we watch a short video. The link is on this slide, so stop this video and do so. The other thing, as far as housekeeping, is if you look at the class periods, you'll see a course number. That number allows you to access this class in registration. Also in your Canvas resources for today's lesson, there are some links of how to access your My Slick page or how to register for a class. So everything is there. Please take care of this sooner rather than later. Each of you is responsible to pay $15 course registration fee to remain in the class. The next thing that I want to do I'll be doing in class today is talking about the difference between 1010 and 2010. And so I will actually in class be giving out a course syllabus and a disclosure statement, and we'll take a few minutes to look at some of the differences. In a brief overview, this class will be broken into 5 units, and all of them deal with a social issue that you will pick. You'll be given a lot more leeways in choosing writing assignments in this class than you were in 2010. And you can see that all of them lead to making a difference with a social issue you care about. So what are you going to do? You're going to be using rhetoric purposefully to do public writing, writing from sources, and creating multimedia. And here on this slide, there are some examples of some options that you can choose from. The rationale for this course centers around our understanding that we can make a difference in the world, that we have to have empathy towards other groups of people. There are reasons why this course right now is so timely. If you look at our political spectrum, sorry, that's my dog in the background playing with one of his toys. You'll see that there's a lot of political division that's going on. Everyone doesn't have the same opportunities, even though we're supposed to. And so what I'm hoping that you will do is pick a social issue where you can delve into that topic and learn how you can make a difference and create more empathy for the world around us. In class, we're going to look at the Harriman High School mission statement and talk about how we think we're doing. So if you're not with us, would you please read this mission statement and think about whether or not we walk the walk and talk the talk as far as doing what we say we're supposed to be doing in our building. A lot of people who are in business management talk about the importance of addressing elephants in the room, and educators need to do the same thing. So one time a leading educational guru talked about that and said, wise educators say that the health of the school depends on the numbers of elephants in the room. We can take the word school and replace it with our neighborhood, community, organizations, and anything even larger to make our world a better place. But issues where things are not right need to be addressed, and in this class we'll learn how to do that purposefully and effectively, rather than just saying what's wrong. How do we go about fixing it? So to illustrate that, there is one of my favorite videos, Finding Forrester, It's a movie from, gosh, about 3 decades ago. But anyway, there's this young man in the video who goes to this private school. He's received a scholarship to go there. He's an athlete and African American. And when he gets there, he runs into trouble with one of his teachers in class, and they kick him out. So the school needs to figure out what to do with this young man because the teacher won't let him back in the classroom. So they they make a contact with a former teacher, and that's the one that's played by Sean Connery, to be this young man's mentor. So watch the 2 video clips. Each one's about 5 minutes long, and then think about the elephants in the room in that video. This slide will help us understand that with all of the elephants that are out there, our world is filled with resolution and possibility, and we can purposefully get things done. By accident, this lesson started on the beginning of a new president in the United States. And so by the time the day is over, we will have a new president and new time to, whatever your political party is or political affiliation, if you have one, we can think about how we can come together more purposefully. So to do that, we're going to talk about in class the word strategy or being strategic. And if you take time to look at these slides, I use myself as an example. When I was a little girl, I began kindergarten. I began kindergarten in the 60s. And by the time the decade was over, I was, I think, in 3rd grade. During that time, if we ever wrote, it was always on weekly themes. And I found the same thing to be true even in my junior high and high school years, where you'd go into class, the teacher would assign a topic on Monday, and by Friday you would turn something in, and it was just kind of like, here's the topic, go write about it and bring it back and turn it in. And then within a couple of weeks, we'd get our response back from the teacher. In the 80s, that's when I began my teaching career. As an English teacher, our whole focus during my early years of school was on writing process. And we talked a lot about the ways to initiate writings and how to go about drafting and composing and then using revision to make our writing better and then finally publishing. That movement had been around for quite some time. However, in the last 10 years, we've seen another shift in English again, and this one that you're probably familiar with because you've been through English 1010 is that we're moving into more of a rhetorical method of teaching writing, where we focus more on purpose, audience, what we come to the writing situation with as the writer itself, and what our genre is supposed to be. So even the strategy that we approach writing today is completely different than it was 10 years ago, and certainly different when I began education as a little kid. This exercise is for you to think about how can you become more strategic. And so the question I'm asking everyone is how many squares are there? And so rather than start counting and counting and counting, see if you can figure out a way that you could figure out the number of squares more quickly. The answer, by the way, is at the bottom of the previous slide. This one, again, what strategies impact my writing? In English 1010, hopefully all of you learned some strategies that make you a better writer, and you will continue on with that practice in 2010, even though we won't spend a lot of time talking about them. Hopefully by now you all know what works and how you can be a better writer. So in this class, you will each pick a social issue in the next couple of weeks, something that's meaningful to you. I'd encourage all of you to start reading the news, to look in informational magazines of issues, pay attention to the news at night. look on Twitter, any way you find news, to think about social issues of what you care about. I'd like everyone, hopefully, to have something different so that we don't all pick whatever we've been talking about in our latest history class. So to illustrate that, I'm going to give you 2 examples as practice. The first one is an issue that came about in the last summer, and this is where some wealthy people started buying their kids into universities. So I'd like all of you to pause the video, click on the link here. This takes you to 2 things. The first one is an article talking about how we are moving, colleges are starting to move away from just GPA and ACT or SAT scores as a means of getting into prestigious colleges and using other ways to do so. And then I'd also like you to watch the videos, particularly if you're not familiar with what has happened to a lot of those rich people and what they did with their kids. The second one I want to talk about is from my alma mater. I went to BYU in my undergraduate years, and the last few years, BYU has been in the news a lot because of issues relating to their honor code. And there were 3 young ladies who were doing an internship with the Salt Lake Tribune in 2016, and they actually wrote a story about some young girls at BYU who were victims of sexual assault and how they came under some scrutiny from the way the honor code had been written. So these 3 college students wrote an article, and on the slide it shows you some titles of some of the articles that were in response to their writers, or their article that they wrote. These girls ended up winning the Pulitzer Prize, which is a national honor for the best article written to bring about change. So kind of cool that young girls did that. And in 2017, it continued. In 2018, it continued. And in 2019, it still continued. I have a link here that will take you, though, to the BYU Honor Code and where it addresses this issue now. These 3 young ladies, because of the original article, have triggered so many other articles that you've seen in these last few slides, but they've also triggered a change in policy and the way they look about sexual assault on the campus. And this will take you to their website now that is certainly more conducive for the victim rather than for the office. So those are 2 examples of social issues that hopefully are a little bit outside of the box, so you can start thinking of some more. For your homework, I would like you to read an article by David Brooks. I use him a lot in my 1010 and 2010 classes. David Brooks wrote an article entitled "The Neighborhood is the Unit of Change," and that's really, really the truth. We make our own difference in our own little neck of the world. It's too hard to change big national policy quickly. It takes time to do that. So read this article, and then as your homework, I'd like you to think over the next few days of something that's been written that has brought about change to our society. Think carefully. Don't get a copy of the quickest thing that pops into your mind. I'm hoping that every one of you will come with something different next time that you can share. Please bring a hard copy. We will be using these in small groups and in a large group discussion, so do not just bring the source on your phone. Make sure that you get it printed, and you have until Monday to do so. So that's the homework, and get registered, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.